Welcome to the Born and Raised podcast. One of these days, we're gonna get a good, warm open.
We're going to cut all this again, too, because what we do every time is we get started talking, and then we just pick a good place to drop in.
We have to get better. It's almost like, you remember the episode of The Office where Pam always gives Michael an extra chance when answering the phone?
Yes. Watch that episode this week.
We need those.
We need that. We need our Pam.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody, to the Born and Raised podcast. Coming at you live from the heartland of America, downtown. Where are we? Corryton?
No, we're not in Corryton. We're near Corryton, though. That's good for you. We're near Corryton. This is kind of a weird, like no man's land. It's not Fountain City. It's not Corryton. It's not. We're like 4 miles northeast of the East
We're not
Town
in the
Mall.
office, is the point. We're currently in Garrett's upstairs bedroom.
Yeah, the guest bed / office. It's not an office. It just has a desk.
It's quarantine podcast time, everybody.
Yep. Kent has seen me in my true form. This is, I think, day 3 for me being on my own, and
it's not pretty, folks. It's not pretty.
No, but the whole podcast today is going to be about what's going on right now and what our role is in all of this and how we can be safe and help one another get through it, both from a health perspective, but also from a financial perspective and business perspective.
Yeah, the music industry, event industry, everybody's being hit hard right now. It's particularly hard on independent musicians and anybody who puts on events for a living. And we're going to talk about what can be done. What can you do while you're being quarantined? Is there anything to do? Do you just sit and wait for this whole thing to kind of pass and then get back to it, or do you put that time to some good use, as well as some marketing and PR tips for messaging during a crisis?
Speaking of all that stuff, do we want to just get into it? Is there we can enter the intro song right here. Go.
What?
I
have no idea what you're talking about.
No, I'm just saying, I guess we can just jump into it.
Yeah, let's jump in. Hit me. What do you got?
So, the first thing, obviously, as event planners ourselves, we're having to deal with just the logistics of something like this. And that's something I think is affecting everybody. Obviously, it started early on with major festivals. I think South by Southwest was the first major one that really hit the news. Ultra followed, Ultra Festival, and then
the talk of Coachella postponing was shortly after.
Right, and that's when people started to realize, oh man, you know what, this is going to be a big thing. Then sports started happening, NBA.
I think major sports leagues suspending operations was the biggest turning point for everybody to start, especially in the event world, to start taking everything really, really seriously and pay very close attention.
Right. And then we were holding out we're small event promoters in the grand scheme of things like Coachella and South by, but we were kind of holding off to see what municipalities were going to be saying. We were waiting to see how they were going to handle it. And I think that is important to definitely be listening to leadership right now and being respectful of what they're asking us to do.
Yeah, for sure. Our roles as event promoters and organizers is, as it always is, but definitely in a time like this, is like how can we best serve the community?
Right.
And being safe right now, I think, is the ultimate goal for everybody.
Yeah. But as we enter that whole season right now, is there's so many there's club shows are being canceled now. Obviously, festivals have already gone away. Now we're getting to the point of just complete quarantine, where people are going to be just, huddled up at home. And looking at dates and trying to be respectful of what's already on the calendar and working with one another as event planners to make sure that no one takes too bad of a hit on this. It's one of those things you don't really recognize until you see it in a full picture, as it's hitting musicians and event planners and audio engineers and bartenders, and I mean everyone involved is being affected by it. And so we want to be making plans that are keeping everyone in mind, because that's ultimately the way our entire event economy works depends on everyone's success.
Yeah, you mentioned bars and restaurants, like as the suggested number of people and gatherings continues to drop. I think the CDC last one they put out was like, try if you can to not have gatherings of more than 10 people. I mean, that's definitely every event. We maybe have had one or two that have had fewer than 10 people.
I've been to a couple pilot.
Not ideal, but
shows that are around that number. But
yeah, generally every event that includes that, and it also includes regular hours of operation for businesses and restaurants. A lot of them are switching to takeout only, which I think is a great move to do right now. I think the earlier restaurants get out ahead of that, I think the better. And yeah, it's just tough times for everybody, and everybody's trying to kind of do their best in an unprecedented situation on how to keep their customers and community safe.
I would say one of the first things that we saw when this all came out is the do's and don'ts of event promoters when you're canceling or postponing an event.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The number one thing I always think is important is, like, if you're in this game long term, you have to think of your customer. You have to think of the festival goer or the concert goer or your fan, because they're the ones ultimately keeping us all in business. And so I know that it's obviously incredibly difficult to consider taking a huge hit. It's definitely something that we've felt, and plenty of other event planners have felt, but we have to be thinking long term, and that comes with refunds. I think it comes with refunds and credits towards other shows, and just working with
whatever it is that's feasible to your business to be able to offer. I feel like you should offer it. Yeah,
offer as much as you can, and encourage people to come back to other shows. And I think as a consumer, that's important to be patient. If you're not familiar with the refund process, it's not fast.
It's not. It's very tedious and inconvenient in addition to the money that you're having to give back up.
Yeah.
And as we're talking about these things, I think we're going to try to use some good examples. And I personally, I don't know if you feel the same way. I want to kind of lift up some of those businesses that have done the right thing, and kind of gotten it right early on. And the first one I want to give a big shout out to is AC Entertainment, man.
Yeah, they were number one on my list as well.
They, canceling Big Ears is such a huge thing. I mean, already right now we're talking about this. This is it's St. Patrick's Day. Was it March 17th? Before the first confirmed case was in Knox County, I think before a lot of people really realized how many things were going to end up being canceled, AC made a really tough call to cancel Big Ears, and ultimately it was the right one. I mean,
it might have saved Knoxville from a serious outbreak. I mean, we're still not out of the woods yet, but I mean, you consider how many international people come in.
Thousands of people coming into Knoxville who maybe had to experience long layovers in multiple connecting flights coming in from all over the place. A lot of people coming in close contact and then all coming into one place in Knoxville. They needed to cancel, and they were expedient about it, and they got it right really early on in a time where it wasn't so easy to be right. Like right now, I mean, what a difference 2 weeks makes. Like, it'd be a lot harder. I mean, it'd be a lot easier to make that call now, but they made it when it still was a time when it was a hard call to make, and it was ultimately the right one and responsible one. And then on top of that, they were able to issue refunds to all of the ticket holders, which is not a guarantee. Not all these festivals have done that. I mean, I feel like it's easy to think of as a consumer as like that's a given, but it's not. That's a huge hit, and I really want to commend them for it. They did an excellent job, pretty much to a T.
All the time knowing that more cancellations were coming.
Right.
You know, when they were talking about big years, it wasn't big years was the first one they had to cancel. They already knew others
because it was the first one coming up, right?
And they were still working through the details of how they were going to actually logistically take care of that. But they knew it was coming. A big hit was coming. They did a good job. From at least the friends that I have that work at AC, the leadership there did a really great job at calming the office and keeping people composed and working efficiently. But you know, having a company like that's music first and fan first and fan focused, I think is really important. And that's where I think all of us need to be, is fan focused and music focused. And
absolutely.
So,
and in addition to big ears, they were kind of a leader here in Knoxville they suspended all their Bijou Tennessee Theater and Mill and Mine shows for indefinitely for at least the month of March. Again, before a lot of these announcements and CDC guidelines were coming out, because they've paid very close attention to this, as many event promoters are,
right,
and kind of saw the trajectory of where this was going, and they got on it early on, and they did a really good job. I think they are a good example to look at on how to do this well.
Yeah. So thanks for leading, setting an example.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's definitely some things that you don't want to do in this time, and I think a lot of it is very nuanced, because there's this weird pain in the way that our culture is sewn together. Is that you want to cancel because you want to protect the safety and the well-being of the public, but at the same time, there's people's jobs at stake that you're responsible for. You know, if you're a company, when you hire someone, you take on the liability of that person's life in a way. And so it's put a lot of businesses in a very uncomfortable place where they're having to figure out, well, do I lay everybody off, or do I stay open and risk exposing the public? You know, and I think that's a really hard call to make, but I think there's an appropriate way to do it. Yeah,
I mean, I was going to get into, you're touching on something I was planning on getting into when we talk about kind of marketing and PR during a time like this, and that is just general empathy. I mean, empathy is always a good thing to have, just in general, for being a person, as well as running a business. But yeah, I think as customers too, like not just for business owners, like for customers, I think showing empathy and knowing what a difficult time this is for certain businesses, particularly the restaurant industry, with a lot of service industry folks that require or that rely on that money to be able to live. Basically,
yeah,
it's not as easy a call as, like, I've seen commenters on Facebook. Which again is every time I reference commenters on Facebook, that's always my first mistake, right? But people just really giving it hard to businesses that were staying open a little bit later than they maybe should have. But the idea that it's all greed driven, I think, is misplaced. It's just like, it's a really, I mean, small business owners right now are thinking about, like, well, I'm responsible for all these employees that have to feed their families, basically,
right.
And it's not such an easy thing to just up and close. I mean, I think a lot of them will very soon, if not all of them will very soon. But you know, just a little bit of grace involved, I think, with all of these businesses as they are trying to make really difficult choices. I think will do us all a little good. Yeah, I know that everyone always talks like, okay, financially speaking, for a household, it's always good to have 3 months of savings, you know, for an emergency. Yeah. No one says that for businesses, though, or at least I haven't heard it in all of the business classes and entrepreneurship classes I've taken. Right. Rarely are they telling you, listen, make sure to have 3 months of expenditure, or, you know, of 3 months savings for all your expenditures and cash flow. Yeah. That's not something that you hear a lot. And so when you consider how extended some businesses can be, especially if they're gearing up for a really big spring, they're probably already taking on a lot of debt to make sure they're ready for that cash flow or for the new revenue. And you kind of put that in picture with what we're going through right now. I mean, there's a lot of businesses out there that maybe they don't have money to make it 2 weeks without, you know, bringing any cash. Yeah. So that's just a really hard thing to think about. And I think that's why it's really important
for all of us to keep supporting them in any way we can, whether it's, like gift cards and buying merchandise for artists and, just going ahead and realizing that we need to share the load here.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like how can we all, I mean, this is a time, especially for businesses that are going to be shutting down for the time being, a good time to kind of think, well, I've got all this time with nothing to do. What can I do? Like, what is there to be done? And that is like, maybe you're not going to be making money for a while, but maybe this is a good time to just see what kind of good you can do in the community, whatever that looks like. I mean, it'd be different for other people. I'm trying to figure out right now what a part-time trivia host / part-time wedding DJ / full-time music promoter can do. I haven't come up with a lot of answers for that. But it's just a good time to try to be looking where you can be helpful in different places, especially if you're just going to have time on your hands to,
right,
not be able to do your job as normal.
Well, and I think it's good to kind of define what your role is in society and go, okay, well, how can that role be effective in the new constraints that we're being given? Which means, okay, we're event planners. Our goal is to bring people together and enjoy a shared experience. And I think that's incredibly difficult when we can't be in the same room.
Right.
But with technology, that's becoming more and more possible. And so, there's a lot of live streams going on right now.
Which is it's just a great call. It's a great call. It's an easy thing to do.
Yeah, if you see a live stream on the internet, drop in for at least a few minutes. It doesn't take you anything at all. But, these artists are just trying to share their music with them. Something Born and Raised has done just yesterday. We created a Spotify playlist of a bunch of local artists here in Knoxville. And we're encouraging everyone to check that out. You have the time to listen. And so you never know who your next favorite artist is. And every stream, even though it's just fractions of pennies, they add up over time. And that's a huge way to support these artists right now. And through that, you can obviously come up with even more creative ways beyond just a playlist. I think the streaming thing is a really cool thing. I think certain group chats, just being more connected with fans right now. If you're sitting at home and you're just wanting to connect with people, you have the technology to do it. So just be active.
Yeah, I think that's great. And going a step further, we want to say that we wanted to use examples of people who are doing this thing well. A guy used to manage, Caleb Hawley,
yes,
did a live stream yesterday. It wasn't just like hey, I'm going to play some of my songs. He did how long did he do? It was like an hour, 2 hours?
It was a full hour
of just straight up just karaoke, and he let people put in requests.
So he always does
comments.
karaoke on his birthday, which yesterday was his birthday.
And
he was like, "Man, well, I'm not going to give up my karaoke. I'm just going to invite all my fans to join."
Yeah.
Which was super fun. We got to ask for requests, and he did a bunch of really weird songs that it's not like he even had in his repertoire as an artist. So it was fun to watch him sing some of those songs and just be goofy and also hear some awesome vocal renditions of like Third Eye Blind and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was great. I watched him do Rolling Stones' "Beasts of Burden," and it was great. I kind of preferred it to the original version. Is that heresy?
I don't know. I mean, he crushed a bunch of really good songs.
It was great. But yeah, that's a good example of just a lot of people are doing live streams. It might be worth taking the extra time, since we're all going to have this extra time to just think of different ways. Like if live stream is the format in which I'm going to be using this outlet to reach people and entertain people in this time of need, what's a creative way that I can go about doing that? And
so Instagram, I'm pretty sure allows other people to join into your live broadcast. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm sure there's others as well that allow you to do multiple things, and it would be really cool to see a collaboration.
This would be a good opportunity to check out our fact check abilities to throw in at the end of the podcast.
There is technology out there. I don't know if the latency would really mess everything up. It probably would.
Probably wouldn't be the best, but
you never know.
You never know.
It could work, or they could be singing in rounds.
Yeah. Also, I want to say Rusty Odom of Blank News and Second Bell Festival here in Knoxville is currently working on a live stream music festival.
Yeah.
Has he released a date for that yet? We probably will release his podcast after, maybe?
I don't know. The last date I heard was March 26th.
Oh, maybe we'll be out before then. But anyway, the point is that's a super great idea. It's really creative. The way that he's telling me he's going to do it, I won't divulge any secrets to this point, but it sounds like it's going to be super cool, and there's going to be some pretty honestly innovative things for live streaming that I haven't heard of before this happened. So
Yeah.
so maybe this could be, I don't know, maybe this could be something we figure out for the future. Even
We all
when we're
start
not on
to really
quarantine.
enjoy it and go, you know what? Maybe we should do more of this.
Yeah, maybe this is the live streaming boom, and it's time to get in early, just in general. I don't know, but there's a lot of people doing really cool things with live streams right now. And if you can think of just a way to add in a little something extra to make it a super cool experience, I think that'd be a really helpful thing right now.
Absolutely. Well, on top of all the things that we're talking about, I'm like, how do you stay active and how do you stay productive? What are some things to be considering when we're looking at how to control our messaging? I mean, there's a lot to be said. There's a lot of feelings right now towards how this is all playing out, and I think it's important for us to discuss that. Just the transparency of how we feel, but also understanding that our words have impact.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is where it's kind of helpful for me personally to have a marketing and PR background. There again, I will we'll reference this fact many times throughout this episode, but like this is an unprecedented event, and people are kind of trying to do their best right now. And there are certain things that you can do that are a good idea, and there are certain things that you can try to avoid. And I want to share some examples for this as well. I've actually got one pulled up on my phone that I'm going to read in its entirety. This is a guy that we referenced in episode 1 with Houston Crest. This is one of his colleagues over at Fan Run Radio. His name's John Reed, and he's doing a couple hours a day of sports radio at a time when there's no sports. It's pretty difficult task.
That's rough.
It is rough. But here's what he had to say on everything. This might be a little bit long. It says, a lot of people are going to be stressed out as life gets disrupted over the next few months. A lot of people are going to have their livelihoods affected. Planning a 3-hour sports radio show while no sports are going on, it's going to be tough, but it's nothing compared to what the local businesses who support my show financially are going to go through. When you're out shopping, keep them in mind. Then he lists through some of his sponsors and says, go to their website, buy a gift card when life gets back to normal. If you don't drink, you can still support by buying. All of these are alcohol sponsors. It says if you don't drink, you can still support by buying one of their shirts or glasses. If you or your businesses have any logistical warehousing needs, my people at East 10 Warehouse and Distribution can help. Axe Logistics is always offering people a chance for a new career path with a great sales job. I appreciate you all and the support that I've received so far. Wash your damn hands and be smart.
Do it. Wash them.
I mean, I just want to kind of break down a little bit of why that's such a good way to do your messaging. And the theme that is going to go through all of this when we're talking about PR messaging during a time like this is empathy. And I mean, he even touches on like, yeah, it's going to be tough for our business, but look at all these other businesses that are going to get hit so much harder. Like, get out and support those guys. Here are some ways you can support those guys. And then if he wants to add a little bit of humor, he throws in at the end, wash your damn hands. And it's just good advice too. Like,
Right.
And that's, I think he hit all of the notes exactly right. And I found this scrolling through my Facebook feed this morning and then found right below it just the worst example.
Oh, man.
And it was
he hasn't shared any of these with me, so I'm just excited to hear all of them.
Well, this isn't so much a statement that I'm going to read, but it's a news headline that says, Kid Rock refuses to close Nashville bar amid coronavirus outbreak. And
he basically, I did read part of it. He basically was like, the Constitution doesn't allow this, so you're going to have to come like forcibly shut me down.
Right. So if you want to look at a stark contrast of a good way to react versus a horrible way to react.
And to be clear, staying open right now, we're not saying that that's necessarily bad.
Right.
It's the way
it's
in
the tone.
Which, yeah.
It's this kind of dickish open defiance.
It's the whole boot in your ass kind of thing of like, well, we're America and we can do whatever we want.
That is not the tone to be taken right now.
No.
And I mean this
or ever. I mean, I'll just go on and say, like,
or ever, sure.
don't be that guy.
But especially right now.
But
like for some people, that's your brand identity.
Yeah, that's true.
And some people connect to it or whatever. But like if that's
that's
your
a
brand,
personal preference
if that's
of
your brand identity, like this is a good time to just like shut the fuck up.
Yeah, find a different way to
be quiet for a while.
Yeah.
I mean those Nashville bars. I think it was the Kid Rock bar, Tootsie's, and a couple others have kind of been an open battle with the city of Nashville since the weekend about staying open.
Right.
They may be forced to close ultimately, which means that they're going to get the PR backlash as well as having to close when they could have just said nothing at all.
Yeah. They could have said nothing. They could have allowed it to play out and play its course. I mean, there's so many different ways that all of this can be handled, and I think that it's just ultimately important that whenever you're doing this, give it an incredible amount of consideration, because I think there's going to be a lot of posts and a lot of quotes that are not going to play out well in 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, think of things being quote tweeted with "This did not age well."
Yes, I mean, I've been following this closely, probably too close, but just seeing how it's affected lives in other countries. And the moment it starts to hit home and you see someone that's in the ICU that you're familiar with or friends with, and then ultimately some people who do pass away from this virus, like some of this stuff is just not going to be funny once that really hits. And I think that's important to just be respectful of that going on. I'm not saying that there isn't a need for lighthearted humor and comedic relief. I am the key of comedic relief. I thrive for it. I love it.
Well, that's quite a title to give yourself.
Well, you know what? It's mine, so take that. But I just think right now, it's just best to side with caution and to look at where you're finding that humor, because there's plenty of things that are funny.
And we're not talking about making jokes in general, but making direct jokes about the spread of COVID-19.
Someone else's misfortune.
Exactly. You're ultimately, whether you know it or not, are having it at somebody else's expense. And the way the numbers are looking right now, it unfortunately looks like there's a good chance that we will all know somebody that will have a loved one die from this. There is nothing that you could possibly say that's a joke about this virus that could be funny enough to make it worth it.
Yeah.
And also, it's just not a good thing to do in general. Forget about like the effect to your business or whatever. Just like, it's just not good. Just don't do it.
Right.
But yeah, those are Kid Rock's always a good place to look for terrible examples of basically anything. Shots fired, Kid Rock. Come on the podcast and we'll discuss it.
Come at me.
Yeah. And again, there are also we already talked about like some businesses are making social media posts that they're staying open and to come in and support them, and that may not strike the right tone. But again, I think we all will be better served to have a little bit of empathy for them as well, and kind of give people time to get it right. There's a lot of,
it's good to be forgiving.
Yeah, a lot of mistakes being made out there, and it's just a good time for everybody to just in general be nice to each other.
Yeah. Assume positive intent.
Assume positive intent. That's exactly right.
Well, there's a lot of stuff around this, and we're going to be podcasting more and more. This is actually this is one of the things when we were talking about being productive. We were planning on rolling this podcast out
probably a month from now, right?
Yeah, we were going to try to get a bunch in the can, but I just think it's a good opportunity for us to have these conversations going, for us to stay productive in this time. And
all of our events at least through April are postponed, so we don't really have anything else to do.
Right. Yeah, and that's something that we're working through day in, day out, working to reschedule those. No one wants live music to come back more than us. We love live music. We love events. We thrive on it, and I think we had an event every single weekend starting like May 1st and going through like June. And so it's going to be interesting. We're going to have a lot of time on our hands. So, we'll probably do more of these. We're probably going to be, hopefully, maybe we'll do some live stream ones. Who knows? And get some questions out there
I think that's
for
a great
artists
idea.
And see what they think.
We just got to figure out the audio. But again, we have plenty of time to figure out how to work the audio for live streams.
That's true.
And that's a perfect segue to the last thing that we wanted to talk about for what is to be done for bands, entrepreneurs, businesses during this time of having to kind of shut down and scale down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, basically the answer is do what you can.
Yeah.
Whatever is available to you. Like content creation for us is what we have because we're not promoting events and putting on events. And, for some people that means taking time to evaluate your processes and procedures.
Yeah.
For bands, maybe you've been waiting to update a website until you've had time. Now you have time.
Yeah. Don't waste it.
Don't waste it. You can waste some of it, by the way. I think this is a good opportunity. If
I think you're going to have to.
If you were really hoping to catch up on Dexter on Netflix.
Yep.
I said that because that's what I've been doing. Or
you didn't finish Dexter?
I'm in the middle of it right now.
What season are you on?
4. John Lithgow.
I think that might have been one of the best seasons.
That's
that. You know how every show peaks, right?
Yeah.
I think that was around the
You telling me it's downhill from here?
Not entirely, but it's definitely not going uphill. That's for sure. It might level out a little bit before it goes down. But
you're harshing on my quarantine right now.
Sorry, bud. Don't worry. There's other shows out there.
There are a lot of other shows out there. But anyway. Yeah. What were we talking about? SOPs.
Well, yeah. I mean, the things that you can do to be productive. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities to learn. Like I plan on learning a lot about mixing and engineering and doing a lot of audio stuff. Even though I don't do that in my day-to-day job a ton, it's something I'm super interested in.
Yeah.
And I want to get better at. So maybe there's some skills out there that you can sharpen. And I think that with technology, this is an opportunity. If there's people out there that you really were like, man, I would love to have a meeting with them, but they just never seem to have the time. Guess what? I
Get them
can
on a
assume
call
they
right
probably do
now.
now. So, be open-minded and connect with one another through technology because I think that human interaction is going to be really pivotal in like 3 to 4 weeks. And I'm not trying to sound alarmist, but I think it's going to be that. I think we're going to be stuck in the house for a while. So,
well, by the time this podcast comes out, we may have an idea of whether you're right or not. But I tend to think that you're probably right about that. We've both been having to follow this very, very closely to know what we're supposed to do with our events. And,
right.
It's gonna get tight. It's gonna be a lot of time at the house. So with a lot of time at the house for artists, things like songwriting, a lot of songs I think about to be written here in the next couple of months. I don't think you need us to tell you that. I'm pretty sure that's probably the home base that most musicians are going to when they have free time on their hands anyway.
If you have a home recording rig, knock out some demos or knock out some new tracks.
Yeah.
This is a good time to release music too.
Yeah, great time to release music for sure. I think Childish Gambino came out with one.
He went ahead and dropped his record.
Yeah, I think they were. The sense that I got was that they were planning on having a full-fledged release with marketing plan and all that, and they were just like, you know what? Let's just put it out now. Have you listened to it yet?
Mm-mm.
I haven't either. I probably will today.
We're gonna have time.
There's all kinds of things you can do. Update your website. If you don't have an email list, right now is a perfect time.
Or if you do have an email list and you need to organize it.
Yeah, that's something we need to do.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm going to wait for like week 2 to do that.
No, that's fine.
That doesn't sound like I want to put that at the top of our to-do list.
Yeah.
But it'll get done because we'll have the time for it now.
Yeah. If you've got a backlog of concert photos that you've been waiting to post for the right time, maybe it's time to dive into that Google Drive or external hard drive and start putting out some content. It's just whatever you've got that you can do right now while you can't be doing shows. This is the time to do it, basically.
Who wants to start a cover band? Oh, wait. We can't do that.
Come on,
man. We can't
man.
practice together. We could go... I don't know. I just want to start a cover
Could do like a postal service type project where everybody mails... Actually, this is a good idea.
This is a good idea.
Where everybody mails one piece of the song to each other and they record their own part on top of it.
Ooh, that actually... Maybe we should make that a thing. Where we'll like...
Well, we're not going to do it.
Well, we'll just like name the track. We're clearly not more. That's the most talent that we could put into this project.
That's where our contribution ends. Is that we give musicians who are actually musicians,
right, and talented,
the idea to go with this. I like this idea.
Well, we can facilitate. How about that?
Yeah,
and I think I think that'd be really cool. Well, if we ever get that off the ground and we get someone to do it, maybe we'll post it in a podcast. That'd be cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, crowdsourcing content. Another good idea.
Sure.
Do it.
All right. Well, we will be back with more. This was a good one.
Was it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
So, all right. The end.
See you next time.
See you. What does he say? See you now or
See you another time.
See you another time. Oh, okay, Jobin.
All right.